being here with you guys. I tell you, really, team meetings are one of my favorite things to do. And so I will leave time at the end for questions. So please be sure to write them down, jot them down, because I would love, I mean, anything's fair game. I can't promise you that I'll always have an answer, but anything's fair game as far as a question's concerned. So I'm one of the elite leadership program coaches. And so what I do is I get to work with NMDs. And so I coach NMDs on the next level achievement system. And so there are two things I want to talk to you about today. I want to briefly talk to you about a system of personal management. And then the main focus of my talk today is I want to talk to you guys about the power of your thoughts. So let me start with, I feel like I can't do any team call without talking about the next level achievement system. Because we really do believe that you need a system of personal management to get to your next level. Because it's true about all of us. Instinctively, we are not encouraged to grow. Instinctively, we are encouraged to stay in the exact same place. And so to overcome our natural human instincts and to overcome our self-imposed limitations, we need a system. And the system we teach is the next level achievement system. It is a system that teaches you how to write your 5-year vision statement, how to proactively plan tomorrow before tomorrow begins, you know, how to do monthly planning. And why are those things important? Those things are important because they keep you proactively thinking. You know, have y'all ever had a day where you wake up and, you know, your day is determined by the emails you receive or the phone calls you get, and whether you're doing Miriam full time or you're going into the office, you look up and it's like 4 o'clock and you're like, oh my gosh, where did the day go, right? We all have days like that. And I'm not saying those are bad days, but we also instinctively live reactively. We react to everything that comes at us. And when you commit to a system, you start to learn how to live proactively. And it's not that we expect you to plan out 100% of your day, but we want you proactively planning about 70% of your day. So some of you might be using the system. Some of you might have tried it and have given up. Others of you might have ordered it and it might be in a box in the closet. And now you're scared to go open that closet door because you know it's in there. So wherever you are, I encourage you to get out and use it. And you know, the system is manual for a purpose. You know, we have these black books that you see everybody carrying around, and it is manual because we know that there have been tons of studies over the years about the kinesthetic connection between writing and the brain. And those same connections do not exist with typing. So we're not just trying to be old-fashioned with this book. There are studies that show when you write something down, you actually have a better connection with your brain. So much so that Harvard did a study, and they took undergraduates. They took 2 groups. One group, they had them take notes on their iPads and laptops. They took another group and had them take notes on handwritten notes. Now, obviously, the group that took notes on their iPad and laptop took a lot more notes. They had a lot more to take. But over 3 years, they discovered that the group that took handwritten notes comprehended more and understood more. So much so that they're considering doing away with iPads and laptops in certain undergraduate classes. So there's tons of studies out there about it. I'm going to ask you guys too to put your phones on mute. We're getting some background noise from somebody. So if you don't have your phone on mute, if you could put it on mute, that would be fabulous. So, okay. So if you have any questions about the next level achievement system, I encourage you, I'll leave some time at the end and you guys can ask me those questions. But what I want to spend some time today talking to you about are the power of your thoughts. Now, I know what you're probably thinking. You're like, oh my gosh, she's going to tell us about thinking positive, you know, and yes, that's part of it. But you know what? It's more than that. I want to talk to you about the true power of belief. You know, what are you really telling yourself? What are you thinking all day long? So that's what I want to talk to you about today. But first, a little bit about thoughts. Do you know we have both conscious and subconscious thoughts, right? Sorry, my phone's ringing. Conscious thoughts are those thoughts that you're aware of. You're aware of, you know, how big the room feels. Does it feel hot or cold? It's the thoughts that you're actually aware of. Subconscious thoughts are those thoughts that perhaps go on, but you're not really aware of them. But scientists have come to find out that our conscious mind makes up only 5% of our thoughts, actions, and beliefs. So that means that 95% of our thoughts, actions, and beliefs are coming from our subconscious mind. And they know this because they've come to find out that in our brain, our conscious mind is firing off 20 to 40 neurons per second, while our subconscious mind is firing off 20 to 40 million neurons per second. I mean, wow, that's powerful. And just when you think you're controlling things, you come to learn that the majority of your thoughts are coming from your subconscious mind. And get this, 90% of the thoughts that you have today are the exact same thoughts you had yesterday. So think about that. But, every thought in our brain creates a neural pathway. It's called a neural pathway. So for example, I have, a neural pathway about how I feel about sleeping in the morning, right? I have a very strong neural pathway that tells me I am not a morning person. But I have empowered that neural pathway over years and years and years. And every now and then I will try to, I'll say, okay, I'm going to set my alarm at 5:30 and I'm going to work out in the morning and I'm going to get up. And that works for a week or two or maybe a handful of days, because that's typically what willpower is capable of. But sure enough, that neural pathway, that one that's telling me you're really not a morning person, you are not a morning person, that still becomes the loudest voice in my head. And then what happens? Guess what? I become not a morning person. So I also came to believe that I had some pretty strong neural pathways of some things that was going on with my daughter. And then I want to share that story with you because I think this helps kind of really put it into light. I have two girls, a 9-year-old and an 11-year-old. And my oldest daughter has sensory processing disorder. It is a disorder where your nervous system gets overloaded. Sight, sound, touch, and what that really means is lots of anxiety, lots of massive meltdowns. And Rob and I were on about a 5-year journey to get her the correct diagnosis. And it was a very interesting journey, but we're very happy that we're getting her the help she needs today. And I was working with this amazing woman in Charlotte, and she said something really powerful to me. I asked her, I said, she's doing so much better. And I said, but the one thing I haven't figured out is how do I handle these meltdowns at home? These meltdowns could last upwards to an hour. And she said to me, what do you really think about those meltdowns when they happen? And I was like, do you want to know the truth? and I said, if I'm being honest, I'm thinking to myself, oh my gosh, here we go again. How long is this one going to last? What have I done this time? Why does she have to act this way? Why? That's honestly what I'm thinking. And she said to me, she said, I just want you to know those thoughts have power. And I was like, well, yeah, but I don't say any of that to her. I'm just thinking it. I was like, I've tried the reward system. I've tried punishment. I've tried it all. And she said to me, you know what, though? The next time that happens, she said, I want you in your mind to only picture her as the cutest baby you can remember. And she said, and I also want you to only be thinking of a really good time that y'all had together. And at this point, I was like, I'll try anything. Hey, I'm up for anything. I'm not sure I really believed it at this point. So sure enough, it didn't take us long for me to try this little example. And came home one day, she was in the start of a massive meltdown, kicking, screaming, and sometimes these things would last an hour. So I did exactly what this woman told me to do. I just sat down in the middle of her floor and just didn't close my eyes or anything, and I just started repeating these thoughts in my head of a really good time we had together and picturing her as the cutest baby I could remember. And within like 10 minutes of me doing this, on her own, she quiets down and she runs over and hugs me and says, I love you. And I was just like, oh my gosh, that's all it took? How I thought about a situation? I also kind of thought, once again, it's always the mom's fault, right? But No, I'm joking in that. But I tried it again. They say when you try this and it works, that you want to try it more and more. And at the beginning of the year, she was starting 5th grade, and that's always a real high anxiety time for us. Most of the time, I've been talking her off. She'd been up till like 3 a.m. in the morning, talking her off the ledge about school and how it was going to be. And so this woman had helped me. In August, I started meditating on what a great summer it had been. I was not going to even focus on the anxiety I was worried about her having. I was only going to focus on what a great summer it had been. Well, long story short, the night before school, I go in her room, I lay down with her about 5 minutes, and I'm replaying the summer in my mind. I'm going through it, and I kiss her goodnight, and I say, hey, I hope you sleep well. And she rolls over and she looks at me and she says, Mom, it was a great summer. And she went to sleep. And I'm not pretending that this is going to work every time. What I'm saying, though, is I came to learn that how I felt about a situation not only impacted me, but actually had the possibility to impact the actions of others. So what does this mean for you? I mean, I'm sure some of you are thinking, oh, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get all my NLC points. Or some of you are probably thinking, oh, am I ever really going to make it to NMD? Well, I'm asking you, how often are you telling yourself that? And how often are you thinking that? Because those thoughts have power. We've got to be careful of those thoughts. But I love this. There's also documented cases of people with multiple personality disorder. Let's say one day they believe they're one person and they have brown eyes. And the next day they believe they're another person and they have blue eyes. Do you know that their belief alone is enough to change their genetic makeup? Their eyes actually change colors. But people with multiple personality disorder don't just believe they have different eye colors. They know it to be true. And knowing something is the deepest level of belief. If we believe something to the point where we know it to be true, it will be true for us. Reality is subjective. We all have certain beliefs and thoughts about ourselves, and they're deeply ingrained in us to the point where we know them. But thankfully, the belief in their existence is not on as deep of a level as, our belief in basic flat facts like elephants can't fly and 2 + 2 = 4. But imagine what would happen if you were to change some of those limiting beliefs you have of yourselves and of your business. That belief that you're not sure if you're going to get all your NLC points, or that belief that you're not sure that you're going to make it to that next rank, or that belief that you're not sure if you're ever really going to make it to NMD. For each of these types of beliefs, we probably could go out and make valid arguments for either side. So all we have to do is determine which belief is most beneficial and then adopt that belief. Sooner or later, that belief is going to create that new neural pathway in your brain, and it's going to become the loudest voice in your head. And scientists have also come to figure out that when you create a new neural pathway, it takes a glue-like substance. You have to seal the circuit to the brain. And they have come to find out that this glue-like substance is not in abundance. There is an infinite supply of this glue-like substance. So when you create new neural pathways, you are literally stealing glue, chemically and scientifically, from your old beliefs. So there goes that belief that you'll never rank up, or there goes that belief that you won't get all of your NLC points, or there goes that belief of the challenging person on your team driving you crazy, right? So I love this. One of my most recent favorite books is called Happy Pocket Full of Money. It's nothing of like what the title sounds, but it's really good. It's called Happy Pocket Full of Money. And he says this. He says, when you pick up a glass of water to drink it, you just drink it. You do it with certainty. You don't pick it up and go, I wonder if I'm going to be able to drink this water. No, you just do it. Do it with certainty. That is the level of faith, belief, and certainty you should have in yourself. If you do not have something now, decide now that you have it, and you will. But sometimes we get so focused on where we are now, we forget that our next level growth is happening daily in our thinking and mental pictures. You have two choices. You are either growing or declining. And any mental pictures of anything other than growth is already the beginning of decline. I truly believe that all of us, all of you on this call, everyone, that we have more potential in us than we can possibly use up in an entire lifetime. We just have to stop believing in those limiting beliefs and start creating those new neural pathways. Just consider how much better you could make your world, your life, your business if you were to change some of your limiting beliefs. And it's much easier to change the belief that you're not worthy or that you'll never rank up than it is to change the belief that your eyes are a different color. And you now know even the latter is possible. So I want you all to become mindful of your thoughts. I really want you to become mindful of what you're thinking. Become mindful of how you're talking to yourself. It happens to all of us. I'll give you an example. About a month ago, I was in a fender bender, and it was totally my fault. I was very frustrated by it. I mean, it was no big deal, but it's still just a pain, right? I was going to have to deal with insurance and all this kind of stuff. And after it was over, I realized I became very mindful of what I was telling myself. And I was pretty much beating myself up. I was being pretty hard on myself. But I at least became mindful of it. And I literally I pulled over and I said to myself, okay, if you were talking to a coaching client, what would you be telling the coaching client if they just got into a fender bender? And I said to myself, okay, now let's say that to yourself. Sometimes sometimes we are our own harshest critic. But the first step is to become mindful of your thoughts. Become mindful of what you're thinking and be very careful because those thoughts have power. So with that, I want to make sure I leave some time for questions. And so I would ask, if you have a question on the next level achievement system or thoughts having power, just unmute yourself, and hopefully there's some good questions out there, because this is one of my favorite parts of hearing from you guys. So I'll open it up to questions.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So I went through and muted everybody. So you will have to unmute yourself on your Zoom meeting down in the bottom left corner to ask a question. But please use this time to ask those questions that you have for yourself or with your team, especially as we're going into the summer. Anything that you have, this is your time to get those questions answered. Okay, since they're not asking.
Hi, Dina.
Go ahead. Oh, hey.
Hi, Dina. My name's Amber. I'm just wondering, is there any meditation sites that you guys would recommend to help with that, with thoughts? Or like I'm listening to The Secret right now on audio in between my training with Miriam, but just some suggestions on what you guys have listened to.
Yeah, I think Dr. Joe Dispenza, and so that's Dispenza. He has some amazing meditations out there. And sometimes meditation, I gave, my dad gave this, I'm David Bird's daughter, so I have a hard time calling him David, so I always just say my dad. So my dad gave a challenge to Golden Key earners earlier today, and I'm going to issue the same challenge to you. Sometimes meditation, people think that they have to sit down for 20 minutes and be sitting Indian style and light a candle. Really, becoming mindful and meditating can be as simple as, I challenge all of you to 3 times a day, take 1 minute and just be quiet. 3 times a day, 1 minute. That's 3 minutes a day. And so that might be morning, afternoon, and lunch. Maybe you choose specific times. Maybe you choose 8 a.m., 12, and 1. But for 1 minute, quiet your mind and become aware of what you're saying. And I think that's honestly a better place to start for some people than trying to tackle major meditations. Joe Dispenza does have some great meditations, but if you're just starting, I want you just to start becoming mindful. So I challenge you, 3 times a day, 1 minute. Quiet your mind and become mindful of what you're telling yourself.
Thank you for that, and thank you for your wisdom during this.
You are
Zoom.
welcome. What other questions are out there?
I have a request. You had given us an analogy, not even an analogy, just as a lot of us have teams and we're all learning how to be our best leader, role model, mentor to our teams. Could you please share the triangle? I think that would be extremely impactful for us to hear your triangle talk.
I love the triangle. Okay, so I want all of you to draw a triangle. And at the top, put victim. Yeah, draw a triangle. And at the top, put victim. So if you're writing notes, at the top, put victim. And in the other two corners, put persecutor and rescuer. So here's the deal. Have y'all ever felt like a counselor more than you're actually into direct sales? Like people call you and you feel like all you do is you're a counselor talking people off the ledge. I hear that quite a bit, right? We have a tendency that when something goes wrong, all of us do this, that we happen to take on this role of victim. We just kind of feel bad for ourselves, right? It happens naturally. So then I'm a victim and then I call you. And then when somebody calls you and they're a victim, as humans, we naturally, we take on the role as rescuer because we want to make them feel better, right? And I want to change your thinking on that, because really our job as a leader is to help people understand that they are the only ones with the power to make a change or to make a choice. So what happens is, I call it the triangle. So the victim calls you. Oh, I just want to quit. This isn't going well. I don't know if I can do this. And then you jump in as rescuer. Oh, but have you tried this? And then this, don't quit. It'll be amazing. Come on. It'll be great. It'll be great. And the next thing you know, they're mad at you, right? I've tried that. You know, and then you're like, well, then guess what? Because they're the persecutor and you're now the victim. And then all of a sudden they're mad at you and you're the victim. And then you get mad at them and persecutor and they're back to being the victim. And you cannot get out of the triangle until everybody's playing all the roles. So I literally have a little Post-it note on my computer of the triangle, and I keep it there because I sometimes accidentally enter the triangle with coaching clients. A lot of times when I've gotten really close to somebody and they're having a down day, I catch myself trying to be the rescuer. So it's a very natural thing. But I challenge you to never enter the triangle. Now, I'm not talking if someone calls you and they've had a death in the family and they need a shoulder to cry on. That's different. I'm talking if somebody calls you and says, I want to quit, this isn't working, I don't know what to do. I think your best response is, you know, something along the lines of this. You know what? Let's just pretend, let's pretend her name's Jenny, because my name's Jenny. Jenny, I think you have so much potential in you. But I realize it doesn't matter what I think. What matters is what you think. I really would hate to lose you on this team, but ultimately you have a decision to make. You have to really decide what you want to do. Because if you ever spoken to somebody for like an hour on the phone, you had an hour-long counseling session. And at the end of the call, man, they felt great and you felt great. And you really did. I mean, man, you knew, you rocked it. They were feeling really good. And then a week later, they haven't done anything differently. Has that ever happened? Well, here's the deal. You really did make them feel better. But that feeling is fleeting. They either lost that feeling when they hung up the phone or they lost it a few days later. Your job as a leader is not to make someone feel better. Your job as a leader is to help someone recognize there is a choice to be made and they are the only ones with the power to make that choice. Now, I often encourage people to use the perspective analysis. That is in your achievement planner if you have it, but it's a very simple page. One page with a line down the middle. And on the left-hand side, you write everything about your current situation. And on the right-hand side, and there's a reason they're on left and right, and on the right-hand side, you write down what you can do about it. And what you're doing in that is you're trying to help people get out of their feelings and into proactive thought. You cannot be in your feelings and in proactive thought at the same time. It's impossible. You know, I use it with coaching clients. I've had NMDs call me. It doesn't happen that often, but they'll call me and they'll be fired up about something. I don't care if it's the back office. I don't know what it is, but they're fired up. And I will say to them, you know what? We're not going to talk right now. I want you to take 10 minutes. I want you to fill out this perspective analysis, and I'm going to call you back. And I was like, okay, I'm not talking to you till you filled out your perspective analysis. So I let 10 minutes go by and I call them back. 9 times out of 10, now notice I didn't say all the time, but 9 times out of 10, that person says, okay, you're right. It's not that big of a deal. Or I figured out what I'm going to do. Okay, I'm ready. Because guess what? Had I talked to them at the beginning, it would have been a wasted hour. I would have talked to them for an hour, but they would have been in their feelings. By forcing them to do the perspective analysis, it tried to move them over to their right brain into proactive thought. Now, every now and then you have a tough cookie who just says, well, I can't think of anything, and they don't get out of their feelings. But that's okay. If someone's in their feelings about a situation, there is nothing you can make them feel better, but that's fleeting. The best thing you can do is never enter the triangle as the rescuer and help that person recognize there is a choice to be made and they are the only ones with the power to make that choice. So I hope that helps. I tell you, I have a picture of that triangle on my computer at all times because you will catch yourself. And if you enter the triangle, if you catch yourself, you can get out. If you entered it and you become mindful, all you have to do is say, okay, wait a minute. I'm sorry. I realized I kind of jumped in with trying to go to solutions and I really want to step back from that. And so you can, if you become mindful, you can get out of it. But if you don't become mindful of it, everybody will play all the roles: victim, rescuer, persecutor.
Jenny, I have a question.
Yes.
You said earlier about the conscious and the subconscious, the conscious being 5% and the subconscious being 95%. You know, I'm a pretty strong-minded person, but even though I have my funks, you get into that point where you have to make that choice. How do you define making that choice? It's like we say, okay, we have a choice to do this or that, but when you're in a funk, you got to push yourself to get in that choice, that proper choice mode. So what would you recommend to give apologize. What would you recommend to give yourself that mental, like you say, give yourself that mental edge to be more in that conscious thought pattern to make the better choice?
Well, there's a couple of things. When you're in a funk, the perspective analysis is great to do on yourself. Y'all, there's times where I do it on myself. If I'm mad about something and something's really driving me crazy, I force myself to sit down and do that perspective analysis because it moves me from how I feel about it into proactive thought, what I can do about it. So that's number one. One thing is force yourself to do a perspective analysis. Two, what I issued earlier, the being mindful, taking 3 minutes, 3 times a day, 1 minute on being mindful of how you're talking to yourself. And then number 3, affirmations. Man, write those affirmations down. You know, they say that our brains really don't know the difference between what's real and what's not. Now, let me give you an example of what that means. So when you go to a movie, right? And if you're like me, this is a sad movie, I'm crying at a sad movie. Well, why am I crying? Because my brain feels like I'm in it. It feels like I'm in the movie with them and it has brought out emotion. So you really do start to believe whatever you start telling yourself. So I'm a firm believer of those affirmations and having them posted and saying them to yourself, you know, I am an NMD. Now, the key here is, though, we have got to align our state of being, which is what we declare for ourselves. So let's say we say, I am an NMD. We've got to align that. We've got to align our thinking, speaking, and doing. We cannot say I'm an NMD and then tomorrow I say I really don't feel like working. Right? I mean, so that is your ultimate goal. Is when you decide something, I want to be an NMD or whatever you decide, I want to be a morning person. We have got to align how we think about it, how we speak about it, and our actions. So coming up with a plan to, what am I thinking? What am I saying about this? And what am I doing? When you can align all of those to what you've declared, to your affirmation, that is where abundance will start to show up. Does that help?
Yes, thank you.
You are welcome. What other questions are out there?
I'm going to ask one. How do you take a
Good
team
morning.
member who doesn't know that perspective analysis, and maybe they're newer and they're not trained yet in our David Bird system? How do we help them get out of their feelings when they haven't had the training and maybe they're brand new, or maybe they just hit senior brand partner, but you notice they're in their feelings a lot? How would you coach, or what words would you use to help them do that perspective analysis?
Well, the good news is the perspective analysis can work on anybody. I mean, I use it sometimes when I'm talking to my good friends and they've never even used the next level achievement system. You say, hey, I want you to trust me on this. Say, I want you to take out a sheet of paper and I want you to draw a line down the middle. And say, I want you to take some time, and on the left-hand side of the page, I want you to write down everything about your current situation. And then you say, and on the right-hand side, I want you to write down what you can do about it. Not what you hope happens, but what you can do about it. So that's one way. So I think you can use the perspective analysis with someone that has never even heard of the next level achievement system. But I also think you can say things when they're in their feelings. You can ask those questions. When somebody calls me and they're fired up about something, the first thing I always say is, so what do you think you should do about that? And they say, well, I don't know. That's why I'm calling you. Well, I really want you to think about that. So the more you can say that, what do you think you could do about it? I mean, because what you're doing is you're saying, look, I'm here to help. But ultimately, you say, you have a choice to make. And I really want to help you get to your next level. And I really want you to think about it. But ultimately, you're the only one with the power to make that choice. And you have to decide if this is something you really want to do. And I know that's hard because you feel like, oh my gosh, am I letting somebody go, for example? But, if they're in their feelings, and even if you spend an hour with them on the phone, they might, like I said, they might feel better about it, but they haven't still mentally made the decision that they want to work this business. So the more that you can constantly be asking them, well, what do you think you should do about it? Right? What do you think your plans are? Have you made a choice? Have you really said, and ask them things like, so tell me, what are you currently thinking? What are you currently saying to yourself? How do you talk to yourself about this situation? And then let's talk about your actions. You're doing. What you're doing is you're going through all aspects of that. What is your thinking? What is your speaking? And what is your actions? And because we know when those things are not aligned, that's where there's that misalignment. So helping people understand that you can't just do one. I see a lot of people who go out and do activity, like they might go out and do some exposures, but they come back and their self-talk is so bad. Oh, this is never going to work. It's not going to happen. They've almost negated their activity because of their self-talk. So helping people become aware of those different components, the speaking, the thinking, and the doing is also helpful.
Thank you.
Hi, Jenny. This is Sunny, and I have some question for you.
Yes. Hi, Sunny.
Hi. Yeah. Based on your training, I see a lot of psychology and not a lot of mechanical thing. So should we be as a leader should be training on more psychology part of the training instead of always training on how to? I think that's probably most important. So I don't know, is there there's a direction that you recommend it?
I think our job as leaders is to meet people where they are. So I think some people, obviously you have to train on the how-tos, right? That's most important. How to get started, what's 3 or free, the mechanics, that's a given. You need to train on that. And
Okay.
some people are going to be ready to accept that and take it and run with it. Other people, you're going to kind of see, you know what? I can see they're in their feelings about this. I might need to kind of help them, you know, I might try to help them recognize there's a choice to be made and get them into proactive thought. So I think there's not one script for everything, because I think it's the same with new starts, right? When you bring on a new brand partner, some are going to want to walk, some are going to want to run, and some are going to want to crawl. And none of those are bad. And our job as a leader is to figure out where they are and work with people where they are. Our job as a leader is to meet people where they are. So many times we try to force everybody to be a runner, and then some get discouraged, right? Everybody's not a runner. We got to run with the runners, but we also need to crawl with the crawlers.
Thank you.
You're welcome. What other questions are out there? Anything?
Yeah, Jenny, you touched on discouragement and helping your team overcome discouragement. Do you have any tips for helping them get over that hump?
Yeah, it's you can't be in discouragement and proactive thought at the same time too, right? Here, once again, you know, I give this definition of, I use this boating analogy, and I talk about our job is to really figure out who has 2 feet in the boat, meaning, you know, we got some people standing on the docks. They're talking about going on a boat ride, but they're really never planning on going on a boat ride. We've got other people who have 1 foot in the boat and 1 foot out of the boat. People with 2 feet in the boat, they have 3 qualities. 3 qualities. Number 1, they have moved past discouragement. Now notice I didn't say they never get discouraged. I get discouraged, right? Everybody gets discouraged. But people with 2 feet in the boat, they know how to move from discouragement into proactive thought. They're not still complaining about the system issues we had at the end of April. Right? I mean, it is what it is. What are you going to do about it, right? So they've moved from discouragement into proactive thought. That's number 1. Characteristic number 2, they have mentally made the decision to work this business. Now notice I didn't say how much. I didn't say they're full-time. They might have mentally made the decision that they can only work 2 hours a week. Remember we talked about crawl with the crawlers, run with the runners. But they're not the people who are calling you every other week talking about quitting. And number 3, they're coachable. I encourage all of you, and Dana can help you with this. I encourage all of you, I just offered Dana up for this, but I encourage all of you to map out your organization. And this obviously is a very confidential list, but I encourage you to, I see a big whiteboard or a sheet of paper that says leg 1, leg 2, leg 3. And you are gonna put who you think meets those 3 criteria, who has 2 feet in the boat. Now, do not be discouraged by numbers. I'm here to tell you, you probably have 10 or less. I have done this with NMDs. I've done this all the way up to 2 stars. I had a 2-star that did this. And I'm not saying she went 12 levels down, but I'm saying based on the people she knew and worked with in her organization, she had 12. 12. And she was a 2-star. Okay? What I want you to do, and this list is going to change. Every month, somebody else is going to come on and somebody's going to come off. But you are going to create momentum in your organization. You are never going to be able to inspire the masses. It's not possible. 9 times out of 10, it's not possible. What you are going to do is you are going to inspire and coach and spend your time on your people with 2 feet in the boat. Now, that doesn't mean you completely ignore everybody else. I'm not suggesting that. But I do want to give you this challenge. From now until Dallas, I encourage you to think of your Miriam time in this way. So the time you spend on Miriam, I encourage you to spend, and I don't expect you to do this mathematically. You'll get the gist of it. I expect you to spend 40% of your time on the people in the boat. So always know who has 2 feet in the boat, who meets those 3 criteria. I want 40% of your Miriam time going to the people with 2 feet in the boat. I want another 40% of your time going to personal activity. What do you need to do? And 20% for everything else. Now, guys, I know that everything else category is huge, but I promise you, I have 3 case studies, NMDs that had fallen back to RMD, and they did this. They figured out who were their 2 feet in the boat. They applied this 40-40-20 strategy, and they grew. So that is how you're going to grow. So I'm not saying I want you to ignore somebody who's discouraged. I'm not saying that. We try to help them. We try to move them. But ultimately, like I said, as a leader, that's their choice. You have to help them recognize that there's a choice to be made. But if somebody's still mad about the system issues back in April, there's not a whole lot you can do about it. I mean, I hate to say it, but there's not, right? So your job is to always know who has 2 feet in the boat. And so your 2 main focuses between now and Dallas should be focusing on people with 2 feet in the boat and focusing on personal activity. Because it's those people with 2 feet in the boat that are going to spark momentum, and they're going to spark momentum with their people and so forth. And that is how you create momentum. Does that help? Perfect.
Jenni, I just have one more question.
Yes.
Somebody have recommended me a book called The Energy Bus. Have you ever heard of it?
No, the energy what? I didn't hear the last part.
Bus.
No, I haven't heard. I'll have to look that one up. I have not heard of that one.
So
I
this
love
is
recommendations.
yeah, I know somebody recommended me, but I haven't looked it up yet. So probably that's one of the things that probably we should look in.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. I just wrote it down. I hadn't looked at that one yet.
Sure.
Any other questions?
I have a quick question. Good morning. Can you hear me?
Kinda, you're cutting in and out. Let's see. Let's try it now. I can hear you a little bit better
Good morning.
now. Good morning.
Sounds good. Good morning. Thank you. I think part of your theme is what I'm hearing from multiple directions, so I guess I better do it. And that has to do with self-reflection. So I'm rewriting my 5-year vision statement and kind of going through that process. Do you have any other suggestions?
Rewriting your 5-year vision statement is great. I think that's really good. My other suggestion is affirmations. I mean, really deciding what are my affirmations, and then aligning, like I said, aligning those affirmations, aligning your thinking, speaking, and doing with those affirmations.
Okay.
But rewriting your 5-year vision is really a great first start. And then from that, decide what your affirmations are, right? And then make sure you're aligning your thinking, speaking, and doing with those affirmations.
Okay, because so much of the vision statement that I wrote 2 years ago has already come true. And so it's time to redo it. A lot of it still is, oh my God, it's great. I mean, most of it came true in the first year. But now it's just, how do I keep upping it? But really taking self-inventory and just kind of reflecting, because I've got to, do more self-reflection as I'm trying to grow my team. But I feel that that's kind of one of the parts that I need to work on more.
Yeah.
So.
That's great. I'm excited. That's awesome.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Come on, guys. Anything else?
Everybody's shy. Either that or they're like me, writing so fast and thinking, we need a rewind button. I just want to rewind button.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask another one then, and hopefully it's the same thing.
I'm glad it's being recorded.
What would you recommend for some of us who have been in the business, and we have a team that's been in the business, and we've worked together so closely for so long? that maybe we don't have that same level of, well, circle of influence. Maybe we all kind of started at the same time. We've all kind of grown together, but maybe we just don't have that same level or circle of influence over some of our peers that are regional marketing directors or now executive directors, even with our executive directors with some of our senior directors. What do you suggest to continue to have people get spurred on or not get stuck in management mode where they're actually going out and doing what you suggested, this 40-40-20? Do you have any tips on that?
Well, one, I would have all leaders, like EDs, directors, directors and above, if they have a team, I would have all leaders map out their org to figure out who has 2 feet in the boat. And then what you want people doing is proactively planning their day. So let's say they're working full time and they can only spend 2 hours on Miriam tomorrow. I want them proactively deciding, okay, what am I doing? What am I doing to help my people with 2 feet in the boat? And what am I doing to for my personal activity? If we are just reacting to the stuff that happens with Miriam every day, we are going to become a fabulous customer support person, right? But that's not necessarily what we want to do. So to get out of management mode, you have to be proactively planning your day and deciding, okay, tomorrow I have this chunk of time. I'm going to spend that doing my personal business. Or I have another chunk of time and I'm going to spend that helping my people with 2 feet in the boat. If you wake up in the morning and you just start answering emails and text messages, you're going to look up and it's 5 o'clock, right? So I think determining who has 2 feet in the boat, knowing that, so you're mindful of that, but then proactively planning your day is huge, because if not, you're in reactive mode and then you're not necessarily working on the most important things. But to get out of management mode, you have to be mindful. You have to be proactive and mindful. And it's really easy, guys. I get it. It is so easy to slip into management mode. That is one of the things I love about the NLC, is it's forcing people to not, to stay out of management mode, which is a beautiful thing. But still, people are still really, I think, trying to solve world hunger and help everybody. And I'm not suggesting I don't want you to be there for everybody, but you really, to grow, you need to know who has 2 feet in the boat, because those are the people who are going to help you grow your organization.
That's really good. Thank you. All right, guys, about one last second. We only have a second. I don't know if we have a second. Questions. Seriously, it's such a gift that we get her. And I don't want you guys to go, I wish I would have asked that, or, I didn't want to ask that because I didn't want to. Trust me, the question you have is the question someone else has, and we all want the answer. So please, any last questions for Jenni? So what I want to know is, when can I come and live with you for a week so I can just absorb and glean?
Me too.
You want to babysit some too? No, I'm kidding.
Oh my gosh, yes. I'll bring a few of my kids and we'll just have fun.
Big old party.
Oh my goodness, yes. And then I'm going to be, a sponge.
Oh, you're sweet. Thank you. Well, I want to tell you guys, I really do. I wish you many blessings and much achievement in life, but most importantly, I wish you abundance. So thank you for having me. It was great being with all of you. I loved all of your questions. I love the engagement. And stop believing in those limiting beliefs, because, man, you got it. You can go get it.
Awesome.
Thank you, Jenni.
So much.
Thank you, Jenni. I appreciate you. Have a great one.
Thank you. Thank you, Jenni. Thank you, Dana.
Bye, guys.